A tragedy in paradise, the Pahalgam terror attack. The idyllic tranquility of Pahalgam, a jewel of Kashmir nestled amidst the Himalayas, was shattered on April 22, 2025. A group of terrorists suspected to be backed by Pakistan-based elements unleashed a horrifying attack on innocent civilians. The picturesque valley, renowned for its breathtaking beauty and serene landscapes, became a scene of unimaginable carnage. The terrorists, believed to be affiliated with the Resistance Front, targeted a group of tourists, most of whom were Hindu pilgrims, visiting the sacred Amarnath temple. The attack, a stark reminder of the persistent threat of terrorism that plagues the region, claimed the lives of 26 individuals, leaving 17 others injured. The TRF, in a statement released shortly after the attack, claimed responsibility for the massacre. The group cited the ongoing dispute over the status of Jammu and Kashmir and the perceived marginalization of the Muslim population as justification for their actions. This gruesome act of violence sent shockwaves throughout India and the international community. The world watched in horror as images of the aftermath emerged, depicting a scene of utter devastation and grief. The attack, a grim testament to the human cost of the enduring conflict, served as a stark reminder of the fragility of peace in the region. It was a tragedy that would forever scar the collective memory of the nation. A bold response. India suspends the Indus Waters Treaty. India's response to the Pahalgam terror attack was swift and decisive. In a move unprecedented since the signing of the Indus Waters Treaty in 1960, India announced the suspension of the agreement. This landmark treaty, brokered by the World Bank, had governed the sharing of water resources from the Indus River System between India and Pakistan for over 6 decades. The decision to suspend the treaty, a cornerstone of bilateral relations, underscored the severity with which India viewed Pakistan's alleged role in the attack. The Indian government accused Pakistan of providing material support and safe haven to the TRF and other terrorist groups operating within its borders. The suspension of the treaty sent shockwaves through Pakistan, which relies heavily on the Indus River and its tributaries for its agricultural and domestic water needs. With the treaty's mechanisms for water sharing effectively frozen, Pakistan faced the looming threat of water scarcity, particularly during the crucial planting and harvesting seasons. The move was widely seen as a clear message to Pakistan that its alleged support for terrorism would no longer be tolerated. It signaled a significant shift in India's policy towards its neighbour, one that prioritized national security and a zero-tolerance approach to cross-border terrorism. The suspension of the Indus Waters Treaty marked a watershed moment in the already fraught relationship between the two nuclear-armed neighbours. Closing the doors, the Atari border shut down. Adding to the growing list of repercussions, India took the decisive step of closing the Atari-Wagah border crossing, the primary land route for trade and travel between India and Pakistan. Located near the city of Amritsar in Punjab, the Atari border had long been a symbol of both the shared history and the deep divisions between the two nations. The closure of the border brought cross-border movement to a grinding halt, impacting trade, tourism and people-to-people contact. It dealt a significant blow to the already limited economic ties between the two countries. Trucks carrying goods were stranded at the border, unable to cross, while families with relatives on both sides were left separated. The decision to close the Atari border was a strategic move aimed at increasing pressure on Pakistan. By severing this vital artery of communication and commerce, India sought to highlight the economic costs of Pakistan's alleged support for terrorism. The closure served as a stark reminder of the interconnectedness of the two nations and the profound impact that strained relations could have on everyday lives. Revoking hospitality. SARC visa exemption scheme visas cancelled. In a further escalation of diplomatic measures, India announced the immediate cancellation of all visas issued under the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation Visa Exemption Scheme to Pakistani nationals. This scheme, intended to facilitate travel and cooperation within the South Asian region, allowed citizens of SARC countries, including Pakistan, to obtain visas on arrival in India. The decision to revoke these visas reflected India's growing distrust of Pakistan and its commitment to tightening security measures. Pakistani nationals who had been granted visas under the scheme were given 48 hours to leave Indian territory. The move led to confusion and uncertainty among Pakistani citizens residing or traveling in India, many of whom were students, businessmen, or individuals seeking medical treatment. The cancellation of SARC visas sent a strong signal that India was no longer willing to extend the privilege of eased travel to Pakistani citizens in the wake of the Pahalgam attack. It underscored the Indian government's determination to hold Pakistan accountable for its alleged support for terrorism and to prioritize the security of its citizens above regional cooperation initiatives. The move further strained the already tense relations between the two countries. Section 5. Diplomatic fallout, persona non grata and mission reductions. The diplomatic fallout from the Pahalgam attack was immediate and far-reaching. India declared several Pakistani diplomats stationed in New Delhi persona non grata, effectively expelling them from the country. The move targeted individuals suspected of engaging in activities incompatible with their diplomatic status, a diplomatic euphemism for espionage or supporting subversive activities. In a reciprocal move, Pakistan also expelled Indian diplomats from Islamabad, further escalating the diplomatic standoff. Both countries announced their intention to reduce the size of their respective diplomatic missions. This reduction in diplomatic staff significantly curtailed channels of communication between the two countries, making it more challenging to address misunderstandings and diffuse tensions. The expulsion of diplomats and the downsizing of missions marked a low point in India-Pakistan relations. It signaled a breakdown of trust and communication between the two nuclear-armed neighbors, raising concerns about the potential for miscalculation and escalation. The diplomatic fallout from the Pahalgam attack further dimmed the prospects for any meaningful dialogue or rapprochement between India and Pakistan. Section 6. Voices of condemnation. India's leaders respond. In the wake of the Pahalgam terror attack, India's leaders responded with a mix of grief, outrage and a steely determination to hold those responsible accountable. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, addressing the nation, condemned the attack in the strongest possible terms, vowing to bring the perpetrators to justice. Home Minister Amit Shah, visiting the site of the attack, met with the families of the victims, offering condolences and assurances that their sacrifices would not be in vain. He reiterated India's commitment to rooting out terrorism and dismantling the infrastructure that supports it. India's Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar summoned the Pakistani charge d'affaires in New Delhi to lodge a strong protest against Pakistan's alleged role in the attack. He presented evidence linking the attackers to Pakistan-based groups, demanding concrete action against those responsible. The unified response from India's leadership reflected the national mood of anger and grief. It signaled a firm resolve to confront terrorism head-on and to hold Pakistan accountable for its alleged support for extremist groups operating within its borders. India's leaders made it clear that there would be consequences for this act of terror. Section 7. United in grief and resolve, political unity in the face of terror. The Pahalgam terror attack, in a rare display of unity, transcended India's often fractious political landscape. Leaders from across the political spectrum, setting aside their differences, came together to condemn the attack and express solidarity with the victims and their families. Opposition leader Rahul Gandhi, in a show of national unity, cancelled all political rallies and public engagements as a mark of respect for the victims. He called for a united front against terrorism, urging the government to take decisive action against those responsible for the heinous crime. The unity displayed by India's political class, a rarity in the country's often polarized political environment, underscored the gravity of the situation. It reflected a shared sense of outrage and grief over the loss of innocent lives, and a collective determination to combat terrorism. The attack, for a brief moment, served as a unifying force, bringing together a nation in mourning and resolve. Section 8. A world condemns international reactions to the Pahalgam attack. The international community reacted to the Pahalgam terror attack with widespread condemnation and expressions of solidarity with India. World leaders, from Washington to Moscow, denounced the attack as a barbaric act of violence and called for those responsible to be brought to justice. The United States, a close strategic partner of India, condemned the attack in the strongest possible terms. President Donald Trump offered his condolences to the victims' families and reaffirmed the United States' unwavering support for India's fight against terrorism. The European Union, through its High Representative for Foreign Affairs, Josep Borrell, expressed its deep condolences to the families of the victims and condemned the attack as a heinous act of violence. The EU reiterated its commitment to working with India to combat terrorism in all its forms. Russia, a long-standing ally of India, also condemned the attack and expressed its solidarity with the Indian people. President Vladimir Putin sent a message of condolence to Prime Minister Modi, reaffirming Russia's commitment to strengthening cooperation with India in the fight against terrorism. The global condemnation of the attack highlighted the international community's shared revulsion at this act of terror and its solidarity with India in its time of grief. Section 9. A tenuous future implications for regional security and diplomacy. The Pahalgam terror attack and its aftermath have cast a long shadow over the already fragile relationship between India and Pakistan. The attack, a stark reminder of the persistent threat of terrorism in the region, has significantly escalated tensions between the two nuclear-armed neighbours. The suspension of the Indus Waters Treaty, the closure of the Atari border, and the expulsion of diplomats have created a chasm between India and Pakistan, making any meaningful dialogue or rapprochement unlikely in the foreseeable future. The breakdown in communication and trust has raised concerns about the potential for miscalculation and escalation with potentially devastating consequences for the region. The attack has also highlighted the challenges facing the international community in addressing the issue of cross-border terrorism. Despite global condemnation and calls for action, Pakistan's continued alleged support for terrorist groups operating within its borders remains a major obstacle to peace and stability in South Asia. The Pahalgam terror attack serves as a stark reminder of the human cost of the enduring conflict between India and Pakistan. It underscores the urgent need for both countries to engage in dialogue, build trust, and find a lasting solution to the Kashmir dispute. Until then, the region remains held hostage to the cycle of violence and mistrust. The future of India-Pakistan relations, and indeed the security of the entire region, hangs in the balance, held captive to the unpredictable forces of history and animosity.